Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating and frankly highly opinionated perspective on wealth generation, inflation, and alternative economics. We're looking at a framework that completely flips traditional financial advice on its head. Forget everything you've heard about just clipping coupons and living frugally. This perspective argues that the very rules of money have mutated, and if you want to thrive, your psychology literally has to evolve right along with them.
So here's our game plan for today's Explainer. First, we'll unpack the wealth mindset divide. Then we'll get into understanding Gresham's law. After that, we'll tackle inflation and fiat currency. And finally, we'll wrap up with buying assets with debt. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The Wealth Mindset Divide. Okay, to hook you right out of the gate, consider this totally counterintuitive question from our source material. Why on earth would a financial expert drop 50 grand on a Paul Newman Daytona Rolex? Now, to most of us, spending $50,000 on a watch seems like, well, the ultimate financial blunder, right? Just a complete waste of money. But here is the kicker. Viewing that purchase simply as a flashy extravagance is exactly what the source calls poor person thinking. The source draws a massive line in the sand between these two mentalities. They argue that obsessing over cheapness actually keeps you trapped in a scarcity mindset. Think about it. A scarcity mindset leads you to buy a cheap, mass-produced watch that breaks in a year, or maybe an overpriced designer bag that loses half its value the second you walk out of the store. The rich mindset, though, it doesn't care about the upfront price tag or the fleeting status of a brand. It is hyper-focused on what the item is actually made of, and more importantly, what it's going to be worth a decade from now. This quote absolutely nails it. I get to wear my asset on my wrist. For the wealthy, that gold watch isn't just jewelry. It's a wearable, appreciating asset that just happens to tell time. As governments keep printing paper money and currency values drop, the actual physical gold inside that watch becomes more and more valuable. They are literally wearing their investments. How wild is that?
Moving right along to Section 2, Understanding Gresham's Law. This brings us to a concept that's been around for millennia, Gresham's Law. It's an economic principle stating that when bad money enters a system, good money goes into hiding. By bad money, we mean currency pumped out of thin air with zero intrinsic value, like fiat paper money. Good money, on the other hand, means tangible stuff with real historical value, like gold or silver. Human nature kicks in, and people spend the bad money as fast as humanly possible while hoarding the good stuff.
Let's make this super concrete. Picture this. I'll hold out my hands. In one hand, I've got a 1964 Kennedy half-dollar minted from actual silver. In the other, a crisp, modern paper $10 bill. Which one do you instinctively reach for? If you're like the average person, you probably grab the $10 bill, right? I mean, 10 is bigger than 50 cents. It's basic math. But the smart investor, they take that silver 50-cent piece and stash it away. Why? Because the silver in that coin has inherent, undeniable value. It's going to hold its purchasing power over the long haul. The paper bill? Well, that's just paper, and its value is constantly being chipped away by inflation. Recognizing that difference is a huge part of the wealth mindset.
All right, let's zoom out a bit for Section 3, Inflation and Fiat Currency.
To really grasp this, we have to look at a massive historical catalyst that went down in 1971. That was the year U.S. President Richard Nixon officially severed the dollar's tie to the gold standard. Before 71, money was actually backed by physical gold. After 71, it became pure fiat currency, meaning it only has value because the government says it does. The source points this exact moment as the start of our modern era of unlimited money printing and skyrocketing national debt. It literally changed the rules of the economic game forever. So what happens when you print money endlessly? You get this brutal dual effect across the economy. As you can see, inflation makes the prices of everything go up, but what is going up totally dictates who wins and who loses. The prices of hard, tangible assets shoot up, but unfortunately, so does the cost of basic, everyday survival. The source explains that inflation actually acts as a giant wealth transfer. Asset holders, the people who own apartment buildings, oil wells, gold mines, they actually get richer. Their net worth balloons as the currency loses value. But on the flip side, the consumers get absolutely hammered. The middle class, who primarily just buy goods rather than own assets, feel the crushing weight of this. Their purchasing power is destroyed just trying to put gas in the tank or buy a chicken at the grocery store. It's a tough reality. Now, the source points a pretty firm finger at political leaders for exacerbating this mess. They argue that instead of practicing sound financial management, leaders often just rely on firing up the money printers to solve problems. And they make an interesting point here. A lot of these decision makers come from academic backgrounds, think professors or theorists, rather than the rough-and-tumble real world of finance. Because of that, the argument goes, they might not fully grasp how creating all this fiat currency inherently devalues the hard-earned money already sitting in your bank account.
Now for the final piece of the puzzle. Section 4, buying assets with debt.
Okay, so here is the mind-bending strategy the wealthy use to actually exploit this system. It's all about debt, which, I know, the middle class is usually taught to avoid like the plague. But here are the steps. First, you borrow fiat currency. Since the government won't stop printing it, that money is becoming worth less and less every single day. Second, you take that depreciating fake money and immediately lock it into a real appreciating asset, like real estate. Third, you just watch. As inflation pushes the price of your real estate up, the relative cost of your debt shrinks. You're literally paying back your loan with cheaper dollars in the future, all while holding an asset that's making you richer. It's a real game changer.
To really illustrate the staggering potential of real assets in an inflationary world, the source brings up gold. Years ago, you could snag an ounce of gold for just $50. Today, well, given the current rate of mass money printing, some market predictions cited in our source suggest gold could eventually hit $15,000 an ounce. No wonder the ultra-wealthy prefer private vaults stacked with physical assets over a standard savings account yielding pennies.
Bringing this all together, the explainer redefines these buzzwords we hear all the time, mindfulness. In this context, it isn't about meditating or doing yoga. It's about hyper-awareness of your financial mindset. It means being acutely, ruthlessly aware of what real value is. It's pausing before you swipe your card and asking, am I buying this just because it's cheap today, or am I acquiring something that's actually going to hold its weight tomorrow?
Let's look at this quote. The problem isn't the Toyota Prius or my new collector car. The problem is how you think. That really hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? Personal finance isn't just a math problem, it's a psychology problem. The source isn't judging someone for driving an economical Prius to get to work any more than they're praising someone for buying an exotic collector car. The real issue is the engine driving the purchase, your mindset. Are you making financial choices that keep you treading water, or are you actually positioning yourself to ride the wave of the economy?
So, based on everything we've unpacked today, from the ancient wisdom of Gresham's law to the harsh realities of inflation and the crazy strategic ways the wealthy use debt, I want to leave you with this provocative question straight from the source. Moving forward, are you thinking like a rich person, a poor person, or a school teacher? It's definitely something to chew on. Thanks for joining us for this explainer, and we'll catch you next time.